All right, everyone, welcome to another First Impressions. And I'm excited about this one because we're going to be talking about new products. I love seeing new products from companies that are evolving and coming up with new ideas to help us as publishers do what we need to do. We're going to add this to our library of other First Impressions videos. I like to think of this as the AdTech unboxing video series. And with a new product, it obviously makes sense that we're going to have to kind of set the stage and talk through a little bit of the underlying strategy and so forth. But at some point, I'm just going to be done and I'm going to want to see product. I want to see demo. I want to see what this is so I can start to work out what this will do for me. So on the call here with me, I've got Team FatTail. I've got Richard Lataw, Alvia, Rachel Friedman, Matthew Fairsheep, though he is technically not a part of Team FatTail. When you hear this project, you'll hear how much he was involved, but he's actually director of ad operations at American City Business Journals. So welcome, team. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Richard, I think you wanted to kind of set the stage. Can I throw things to you?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Thanks for that intro. We had a great experience doing our first impressions, and are super pumped to be back here to roll out this new product. Give me a moment here. I'll share my screen and get the ball rolling here.
Great.
All right, so we're going to get right into it, Robin. And to your point, we're not going to go heavy on a deck or slides. We've got just a couple of slides, and then we're going to show you an actual product demo and walk through all of that. But I'll preface that by talking about how we got here. So you guys might know us at FatTail for building out our flagship OMS AdBook, as it's been known for the past close to 20 years now. It's used by publishers all over the world in all kinds of verticals, traditional digital publishers, but also auto, travel, and medical pubs as well. So all that's to say is it's got a ton of features, it's got a ton of flexibility and super solid integrations to other sort of platforms in your ad tech ecosystem. Just by way of quick personal background, I actually celebrated my 10th year at FatTail, and it's been a wild ride. It's been really cool to see the platform grow and see the market evolve and the product evolve with it. One thing, actually, I started out in a account management function. I was working with publishers day to day on using the actual platform, helping folks get implemented, and eventually transitioned to the sales role that I'm in now. And through that journey, and having a ton of conversations, not just with our clients, but with prospects out there, I learned that while AdBook is completely awesome and it's got a ton of great features, all of those things that I mentioned, the way that OMS works, it's so deeply ingrained in a publisher's tech stack. It's kind of hard to move. It's the backbone. It's the central nervous system of your organization, because it's so plugged into other platforms and people and processes in your organization. So I would talk to folks and they'd say, Richard, I love AdBook. I want AdBook, but we've got this other thing. There's not necessarily enough to make a switch. We need something more. And so hearing that feedback kind of converged with an internal initiative that we had to provide more wide-reaching solutions to publishers out there. It's been great for direct sold deals, but we wanted to evolve and grow into the programmatic space, and help with some of those other people and processes outside of what the core OMS is generally understood to do. So that has led to the culmination this year of rolling out not one, but two additional products under what we're now terming the AdBook Plus platform. I will say we rolled out the AdBook Plus terminology before your Paramount Pluses and your Disney Pluses did. So we were first to market with the Plus terminology. We'd love to talk to you about AdBookPSP, perhaps in another format. That's an exciting new method of transacting in a programmatic way. It offers some additional efficiencies and benefits on transaction fees than existing solutions for programmatic direct preferred deals. Again, perhaps for another session. We're here today to talk about AdBookPORTAL, which we'll jump to in just a moment. But I would like to give a little bit of background on why why AdBook Portal? So as I'd mentioned, we had wanted to sort of branch out of that core OMS experience. And around that time, one of our longest standing and best partners that we've had, American City Business Journals, came to us with this business problem. And AdBook was this wonderful internal powerhouse for managing these direct sold campaigns, but there was an incredible amount of overhead around the campaigns once they'd gotten live, creative acquisition, providing campaign reports, getting invoices processed. And what they found and what they shared with us in this pretty rigorous discovery project, which we'll share a little bit more about, is that the work for, say, a $10,000 deal was often the same amount of work for a $100,000 deal due to the sort of operational overhead of managing those things that I mentioned. So they came to us seeking to build on our existing partnership and see if we could build a platform, a solution to help solve for that problem. And that coincided with, for you listeners, you'll understand that your buyers out there are perhaps seeking a little bit more of an Amazon-like experience in working with anybody. That's just become the way of the world, whether you're buying a new umbrella online, or if you're buying a marketing campaign. So we undertook this, once again, rigorous research process. Rob already introduced Matthew Fiershey, and we also have from the FatTail team, Rachel Friedman, served as the chief collaborators of that project. And what they really want to do is seek out what these issues were, again, around creative acquisition, transacting campaign report and processing invoices, and what the efficiencies to be gained would be in building out a platform to support it. And that gave rise those requirements to what we're going to show you today, AdBook Portal. So what it actually is, and once again, Rob, we're going to jump to the platform soon. It's a modularized platform as a service, which allows you to better transact and interact with your clients. It works towards this broader goal we have as an organization, FatTail, of client empowerment. And in our first impressions, we talked about building on operational efficiencies, sales enablement, and then this broader client enablement. And that's what the AdBook Portal does. It gives your clients access to their campaign reports. It allows them to submit creative and process invoices, which again can really reduce the transactional drag that you have in managing these campaigns pre, during, and post go live. So once again, it's a modularized experience. So you can use what you need. If really the only big overhead that you have is around creative acquisition and creative workflow, you can use just that part of the platform. If you just want to give them campaign reports, we can provide that as well. And if you just want to use it for invoices, you can do that, or any of the above. We've really intended for this to be an open and constantly growing experience. So we have these modules, but we are always seeking to build out additional integrations beyond what we have today. And as we go through this demo, we're going to talk about the platforms that we're plugged into, and what we have is that broader roadmap. So with that said, I would like to turn it over to our lead demo guy, Al Villa, who actually, Al has an even greater tenure than me. He's got 13 years at FatTail. And he came up through a similar track. He actually worked with clients, led some of our biggest and most complex implementations. So all that's to say is he's got a really deep, intuitive understanding of what the product can do and how it's helping serve publishers out there. So he's going to do this demo, and we're going to have sort of a conversation format with Matthew, who again collaborated with us in a massive way on building out the platform, just to talk about how it's helping them solve problems today at American City Business Journals. So Al, could I turn it over to you?
Sounds good. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Let's see some product, Al. I'm ready.
So one point that I wanted to make, to add to what Richard said during his intro is, yes, the portal does give the advertisers that direct access. And as we're about to show you, I'm actually logged in as an advertiser. But the other thing that the portal does, and it's a really important point of value, is that it also gives your direct sales team that very same access, so that they're seeing the exact same thing that the advertiser is seeing. They're able to speak the same language when they're talking about a particular campaign. And in the event that an advertiser doesn't know or doesn't have time, let's say, to load a creative, your sales team has that same access to do the creative upload, see if the campaign has creative, and all those other things. And so this is not only an awesome tool in terms of giving the advertiser an experience and data that they desperately need, but it's also a way to empower and enable your sales team at the very same time. So as I mentioned before, we are logged in as an advertiser. The way that the portal works is if you are invited as an advertiser, you will obviously only see your campaigns. A publisher logging in on the publisher side of the portal will be able to search for all advertisers, that they're assigned to. And so in this case, we only have kind of 3 campaigns that are running live for this particular advertiser. And we're going to talk about kind of 3 main areas of value that the portal has today. The first is this analysis tab up here. So you can see on the summary view that all of the line items that are associated to this particular campaign are here. The names of the lines are client-facing friendly names, so you are able to call it whatever the client wants it to be. So it doesn't have to be an internal name that the advertiser wouldn't really know what's going on in. We'll get to creatives later, but I wanted to first call out this analysis tab. While super simple, it's extremely powerful because the client can now come in for every given line item, whether it's running in the ad server or not. We don't limit you to only ad serve lines here. These can be, print, they can be social lines like you can see here. It can really be anything. Anything that exists in AdBook is available here for the advertiser to see. But just the notion of knowing whether or not a campaign is started, if there's delivery there, like how many emails do you have today, asking, hey, did my campaign get going? I mean, Matt, I think you mentioned to me like how much time this has saved you. Can you give us some examples of what you've seen so far with this?
Yeah, absolutely. We very regularly get emails from a variety of different types of clients who want to know, did my campaign start? How are things performing? Do I need to think about my creative and update because it's not performing well? And even at the end of the campaign, a quick, the day after it ends, how did things go so I can decide how do I want to move forward? We certainly have resources dedicated to that internally today. It's just a very time-consuming process, and with the huge growth we've experienced, it's just not sustainable. So I think it's really great that we're able to get this information out there in kind of real time. And I'll echo your comments about accessibility across the organization. So really important that our salespeople can see this. They're seeing the exact same numbers that our clients are, as well as our internal resources. So I think that's very important that AdBookOMS being our centralized nervous system, we're all seeing the same data. So that's really been a huge benefit.
And Matt, I mean, you called out the real time, but I think I want to expand on that a little bit, because if there is a scenario, because both sides of your sales team and the client can see this, and that the data is updated in real time, you can literally be having a conversation saying, I want to make this change here, here, and here, and have the portal immediately reflect that, correct?
Certainly, yes.
So again, I mean, really the idea here, guys, is that we're really shortening that communication time and making that data that has always existed in AdBook instantly accessible in an easy to consume format that, is just a quick check and is, reducing a large number of emails as a result. All right, the second item that I wanted to cover is the creative piece. And this is one of kind of the most recent additions to the portal. As Richard mentioned, this is an evolving product that we're constantly adding new capabilities towards. And so this is something that, while live, is currently being rolled out to ACBJ. But as you can see, you have the ability for any given line item to either view creatives. So you can see here on this second line, I guess I didn't load it. Or to just add a creative right here to it. So let's go ahead and add a new sample creative. And it's optional whether or not you want to put in a URL. I'll go ahead and put our URL in here. you can see here, we have an option to view the creative specs. So you'll be able to load up all of your creative specs for the advertiser to directly see this, and then you can submit. Now, as I mentioned before, because we have gotten feedback, we know that not every advertiser is going to put in the creatives themselves. Some do, some don't. This capability exists also on the salesperson side. So if they do get those creatives, you can have somebody from your sales team load them up so that both sides can see that, yes, the creative has been received. Yes, the creative has been loaded, and I'll be able to review them on here.
So Al, you bring up a really interesting concept and one that I think is really important as we kind of move forward. Like, again, it isn't necessarily that all clients will move toward this direction. It's not, and it might not even make sense for all sales, but any opportunity by which to move just needless communication, like to your point about the emails back and forth to find out the status of something. Someone could go in and they can find it themselves. A salesperson can help a client with those questions, right? Just takes, again, ad operations role is just growing in complexity.
Yep.
And this just takes something that someone else can kind of handle and do that for them. Just obviously frees that up. And Matthew, I'm sure you've kind of had the same thought that this is actually helping with your ad ops team to everyone else in terms of spreading the workload, if you will, to more appropriate places.
Yeah, I think there's a couple points there. One, going back to the accessibility piece, we do have a variety of situations where creatives coming in from the client, or maybe the reps helping the client submit that, or we have a business designer designing it on behalf of the client and they're submitting it. So having one place to put that in, to see the status, to know what's required, what the due dates are, is really helpful on all sides. I think the other huge challenge that we identified during that in-depth discovery process that we went through was just how much we were relying on email and email communication, and how little of that is documented and tracked. So what this allowed us to do is have that one kind of intake mechanism. It also allowed us to automate things like going from the creative submission into ticketing for our ad ops teams for trafficking, because we traffic some things internally, we traffic things off to third parties. So this allowed us to stay out of email. It allowed our client success team not to be copy, pasting, reattaching, downloading. A lot of those things are automated, which provides efficiencies and removes risk, right? It creates greater accuracy.
Yeah, one other additional point, Al, and I'll turn it over. Here I am making you do the demo, but then I interrupt you to talk about things that were high level. But Richard put out this point, right, about the backbone, which I love as an analogy. And I would sit there and say, like, I think most publishers think of it as the backbone, yet how much work is done around the backbone,
right,
without the backbone, right? Around it, right? Like, in other words, if it truly is your system of record of what's going on with the business and what's happening, why do I go to my inbox to find out what's going on with my business? That's the part that I think that it gets exciting to kind of start to see these pieces kind of starting to kind of build together.
Well, and especially when there's so much information in the backbone that ought to be making life easier. And if you're going around it, you're needlessly making your life harder. And, kind of adding to the examples that Matt gave, the other thing that we've built around just not only the centralization of the loading of the creative, but something else that we're really good at, which is workflow. So we now have the ability to automate the creative chasing bit. So like for you to say, okay, look within the portal, if there is a line item that doesn't have a creative that it ought to have, and it's 5 days out, 10 days out, maybe you do 2 notifications, you're able to automatically send a note to that advertiser saying, hey, we need that creative. And right now today, a person is the one doing that. And so to just remove that, really just a process that is just so rote and unnecessary, for a person to have to do, and just have a system be able to do that for you is really, really valuable. I mean, an example of what that might look like here, guys, is this. These are some of the notifications that the system can send out. So it's able to, you can see, I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself on the financial piece, because we also have workflow there to notify when payments haven't been made. But you can see on the creative, it's going to show you which line item is missing, and what we need. So
very cool.
All right, now to the third and final piece of the portal. which is the invoices and the billing bits. So you've got the client now knows that the order is running. They're able to get the creatives. The thing is live. Now for the part that we all care about, which is getting paid. And so what the portal allows you to do, and what we've done with American City Business Journals, is we've integrated directly into their billing system so that when a person hits this download button, it will extract the exact invoice for this particular order for them to be able to see. And you can see here that they also have the option as well, not only getting the invoice, but you can actually make a payment directly from the portal. And so you can register, you can go in as a guest. Right now we do a credit card transaction, but are looking for additional methods of payments, which Rachel will talk about. But literally it's a one-stop shop here, guys. You're able to see the bill, pay the bill, and it's always in one spot. Matt, you had mentioned that this is one of the biggest value propositions that you guys had seen. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say that this was one of the functions, features of the portal that gave us kind of the immediate return, is that we saw, again, I'll highlight accessibility. Like I personally go in here to pull invoices. If a client asks about them, reps can do that and clients go directly. But this also helps us with, it helps us with collections overall, our aging, improvements there. It's client satisfaction. How easy is it? We had a client that was kind of part of our core group that we interviewed during this build. And one of their main problems was, hey, I have to call into you once a month to make this credit card payment. I don't want to have to do that. We solved that. She's super, super happy. So I think it's a huge piece of client experience, but it's also quite a bit of address to efficiencies.
All right, I'll go ahead and cancel that out. And so this is what we have today, guys. The one thing I will kind of call out, and maybe as a little lead up to Rachel on what's next, is this is meant to be modular. We are going to add additional things to this and add additional vendors that can provide value. What we want to be is that one-stop shop where clients want to go to get all of their critical data. AdBookOMS has been, because it is the backbone, has such a trove of information that the client's going to want to know about, that we feel like having something like this portal was a great starting point. But there are other data points and other things that clients care about. And the more that we can build into that, which is what we intend to do, the more and more value we're going to be able to provide for our publishers.
So would you say like an app store type of approach, right? Where again, if you're working with clients and they come up with ideas of what could plug in here, you could start to work and develop those ideas out, right? So in other words, this isn't end all be all, it's the starting. And again, as you work with clients who say, I want my clients to see X, you're going to start to look at those potential integrations.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. We're definitely a very publisher-centric company. So as we get feedback from our publishers on what, where the valuable, problems are to solve, we will add to that. And in addition, like other vendors, they say, hey, I work with vendor X. I would love to have Y information within the portal. Can we get that integration built? That's absolutely something that we're looking to do.
And I'll interject and expand upon that. We talked about the OMS being that kind of central piece, but I think Portal kind of adds an even broader scope to that, because we know that we don't want to bring in like all of our AR. We don't want to bring in all of the invoices into AdBook. We don't want to bring all delivery metrics into AdBook. And this allows us that extra layer to bring things together in one simple experience for our client and for our internal teams. So it's a great additive to the OMS.
Got it.
All right, Rachel, you want to tell us what's coming soon?
I would love to, Al.
Awesome. Rachel, I will share my screen here and we can talk through that. Just one moment.
Yeah, it's exciting to kind of hear again, like building off the order management system, then building out from it, right? That's the part that I think people have had to do in the past. And again, I think there's just a great kind of underlying concept here that I think is going to help publishers kind of think through the future with this stuff. So Rachel, please.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Our when we're looking at the portal today and the portal in the future, it's very closely coupled with AdBook. The OMS is the internal tool that operations teams are using. It's connected to a lot of different systems downstream and upstream. So we look at this as a way of customizing and tailoring that information related to campaigns specifically, and being able to provide that directly in the portal and have the right kind of tailored view for the end user, whether that's an internal person or a client or an agency. And then beyond that, it's, you know, every time we found this out during our deep discovery process that we did with Matt and team, we've learned about this through talking to all of our other clients as well. There are so many tools out there that people use across the board, whether that's BI tools, e-commerce platforms, financial systems, that when we think about this, you know, there's a place for some of that information in AdBookOMS. Not all of that belongs there, but you may need to provide access to that information to your customers or to internal people. So having the ability and the flexibility to either build integrations ourselves or provide the right APIs for people to integrate with us so that you can continue using the tools that work best for your business and have that hook into the portal from a workflow standpoint or a visibility standpoint. So with that, we talked about access as being a key element for the portal. We're going to continue to look at pulling more information and making more information accessible in the portal. We have coming soon ability to view screenshots, view more documents that get handed off back and forth, whether that's custom reporting, campaign wrap-up presentations, updates or files that just get passed back and forth. All of that should be centralized and accessible in this single platform. We'll continue to extend into e-commerce. We're currently in discussion with several clients on integrating into existing buying tools so that the portal itself is not just a way for managing post-sale processes, but it's also really a one-stop shop for all the needs based on, you know, what you want to present to your customers. So if you have things that you want to make available to them on self-serve capability, that should be something that they can do. And then that connects downstream through all the platforms, and they have all the right kind of billing, reporting, and information directly in one place. And a key component along that, with all of that, is notifications and communication and workflow. So it's not just about providing access to information, it's about how do you connect with the right people and connect to the right people in the right places. So whether that's a handoff because you have creative that was submitted and that needs to get sent to the right teams. And we all know with the creative process, there's probably 10 steps and 10 different people that need to get notified. So in thinking about that, how do you build the right workflows, have the right tools to have that communication back and forth internally as well with customers? And we've listed a few different platforms here that we know a lot of people are using that we're looking into doing integrations with. And then a key thing that we see for the portal is tackling the big challenge of creative management. Like Al demoed, we have some functionality in the portal already, but it's a very complex and involved process. There's many different types of creatives that can get collected, different work streams, creatives produced in-house, creatives that are produced externally and submitted either directly from a client or from a creative agency. So we're really looking to go deeper in helping to solve that challenge. Everything from submission to workflow and trafficking, leveraging all the pipes that we have in place today in AdBookOMS and making that accessible on the front end to customers and internal people. And then, yeah, lastly, integrations. We've listed a few kind of other vendors of interest here. Really, all of this is market driven. So we have a number of integrations already with AdBookPORTAL, and we'll really look to continue to expand that based on the needs of our growing client base.
Very cool. Very cool. So I do want to circle back on something, Matthew, just asking you about this with the role of ad operations, right? And, I kind of mentioned again, this idea of kind of the sharing the workload or whatever. You've been at this over a little bit, working with FatTail to get the product where it is and to helping with you. What has that done in terms of your own? So actually two questions. One has to do with the retention of your clients, but also kind of working with your own employees in terms of the work that they're doing. What is the trends that you're seeing or things that you're able to kind of cover off on now?
Yeah, I think with the overall efficiencies and automation, we certainly see more time being able to dedicate it towards the client relationship and expanding on our role as a premium publisher. So, I think that was one of our number one goals going into this, is that we want to retain that presence in the marketplace and that relationship with the client as premium, while automating as much as possible so that we can sustain growth and sustain staffing that can advance their careers, right? Because we want people that we're paying good salaries to be able to really use their time wisely, things that actually benefit and add value to the business. And that's not pulling reports. It's not sending emails to remind people about creatives. It's not processing credit card payments over the phone. So I think we've addressed many of those things, but I'm really excited about the roadmap. I think there's a lot out there that's going to really take this to the next level. And one of the things that I said right off the bat to Rachel and some others as we started this conversation was the creative workflow pieces that I really never have seen a platform out there that can address this. And so I think we've made a lot of progress and we're well on the way. And I'm really excited to see how that can really change our business. And it will support full self-service e-commerce at some point as well. And I think that's really, because we kind of started thinking that was where we wanted to be, right? Was that low dollar ads, we want to go to this platform, but what we really saw the opportunity were these efficiencies and automations. And so we're seeing the benefits and going to see many more as well.
Yeah, as someone that's done and worked at the local level, again, it's the hardest to do it at price points that make sense. So you need that efficiency, but that's efficiency that you kind of need elsewhere. I as much as I've spent my entire career trying to escape screenshots, I have yet to escape screenshots. It's still a thing. But Rachel, I wanted to throw it to you, right? Like it feels like you've got a roadmap, but it's something again where a publisher could come to you and say, here are all the pieces we're working with, right? And start to lay out those particular parts. So it shouldn't be, I'm trying to think of just my order management system anymore. It should be thinking about workflow and all of those particular pieces. Is that an appropriate way to think of the approach? And any other thoughts on how to kind of approach solving for all these types of things that publishers have to deal with?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, OMS has traditionally been a system for campaign execution. There's lots of other things that need to happen as part of actually selling a campaign. I'll even say executing on it and then servicing the customer throughout that process, and then finally getting paid for that. So that entire kind of quote to cash process, and all of that does not belong in the OMS because that's not the function for it. But all of it is extremely important to the business. And what we have found is, even for internal people, all of the systems and processes are so siloed that it actually makes the process of selling and executing on a deal extremely difficult, and extremely difficult internally to manage information or to service the customer. So when we look at the portal, we see it as a way of breaking down those silos and bringing everything together into a centralized place to streamline kind of internal efficiencies, external efficiencies, and really help make it easier to make more revenue.
Yeah, and I love that concept only because, and I've been on the soapbox before about how publishers are organized. They're not the same way that digital companies are organized to move quickly and nimbly on these things. And if you can connect those systems, that's great. So Richard, okay, so first of all, I'm assuming that if I'm a AdBook client already, I certainly could talk with my account rep and get the conversation going about this additional functionality. If I'm not, what's the next step? What should people do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'd love to have a conversation with you. I'll say it, but I'll also get a visual to really lock it in. We'd love to talk to you. And we'd love to hear from you at info@fattail.com. And we would be happy to connect and talk about what your specific requirements might be. And as we've said, we've got this great starting point in this base feature set around campaign reporting, creative acquisition, and invoicing. We want to build on that. Rachel said this is a market-driven solution. We want to hear what you need. This product that we showed you today was the result of conversations that we had with the market. We want to keep doing that. Rob, as you said, whether an AdBook client or not, we want to hear from you. We want to talk with you.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks everyone for another great session of First Impressions. Love the conversation, love the ideas, and really, again, love the evolution of the conversation too, right? So again, it's something where I think there's going to be some new ways to think about this, whether it be AdBookPSP to AdBookPORTAL, different ways to start there and to think about how the role of an order management system is to just overall workflow and roles and so forth. And I think that's 2022 is going to be a big topic. So I really appreciate the conversation. So thanks, everyone.